The next part we're going to take a look at is the nose. And also the eyebrows. So before we actually take a look at how this attaches to the face, we are going to take a look at how to construct it and what the different parts, the different components of the nose are. So when we look at different noses, it's a little bit hard to see how they are, how to be able to draw this, because they all seem so different. So some are big, some are wide, some are narrow, some are long, some are short, some have really big nostrils, some have small nostrils, some are really well defined, some are less defined. So it's easy to get mixed up in all their differences, but there's obviously a number of similarities, and this is what we'll want to focus on. And once we know this, then you'll be able to deform the nose as much as you want and create all kinds of variants. So before we actually take a look at how to simplify the nose, we're going to take a look at its anatomy a little bit, and to get more familiar with the different pieces, the different components of the nose, and also the vocabulary a little bit. Where is the nose attached? So the nose in itself has no bones. It's just mostly cartilage and a little bit of muscles and fat tissue. And it attaches, of course, onto the skull. So it attaches right here. So what we have right here, if we look at the skull, we have the nasal bone, which is going to be this one right here. So this section right here. It's a bone that has two parts. As you can see here, it's split down the middle, and it has two parts here. And then this stems right at the glabella, which is this area right here, the area between the two eyes. When we look at a nose like this one in particular might not seem like there's much to it. It might seem like a simple shape in some cases, but there's a number of different highlight variants here, number of different surfaces that are very subtle in this case, but are existent. And so we need to understand what creates those things, what creates those variants in the surface. And to do this, we're going to take a look at exactly what is inside here once we remove the skin. So right underneath, and the nose is a little bit more complicated than this, so we're just going to focus on the main parts, the bigger parts. So right now, we're going to take a look at three different parts. So we'll have the nasal bone right here. So this is going to be the area where the cartilage attaches itself, like I said. So the lower section of the bridge of the nose is going to be called the lateral cartilage. And this is going to be, as the name suggests, just cartilage. So everything that's in blue here is cartilage. And it has a particular shape. And as you can see also, it's split in half. So some of you might be able to feel this if you press on the top of your nose. There's two edges at right here that are pretty hard, and then you might be able to feel something soft in the center. So that would be this separation there. So the shape of this cartilage is going to be interesting. It'll be kind of like a pointy shape as it merges with the other section, which is going to be the tip of the nose, and we can also call the ball. And this piece of cartilage is going to be called the greater alar cartilage. And again, this is also going to be split in half. So the entire nose is split in half essentially. And then we'll have on the side here the nostrils, which we can also call the wings. So we'll have the block of the nose, which is this section here. This is going to be the ball, which is the tip. And we'll have the wings, which are on the sides right there. So those are all the main components. Those are the ones that are going to affect the surface when we paint it or when we draw it. All right, now that we know what lies underneath the skin, we can now take a look at real noses and try to spot all those different pieces. So in some cases, it's going to be pretty hard. So some noses are really just too soft, like this one right here. We're not going to be able to spot much. Same thing with this one here. It's a man's nose. This one here is starting to be a little bit more interesting. So we're able to spot at least the split in half that happens at the tip of the nose right here. So we can see here it kind of digs in like this. So this right here would be kind of like this split in the center. And then you would have the greater alar cartilage, which would go then like this and back here. And we can see we can find this really nice pointy shape here that we find when the lateral cartilage meets the greater alar cartilage right here, this little arrow right there. So very visible on this particular nose. And again, this would be split in half down the center. And then we can see the same thing on another one right here. So this nose right here is also really interesting because for the same reasons. So we can easily see the shape of the greater alar cartilage right here. So we're not able to see kind of like the split in the center as well on this one, but we can definitely see the shape that it creates here when it meets the nostril. So this shape right here. And then the lateral cartilage with its pointy bits attaching like this. We can find the same thing here. So we have the lateral cartilage right there, all the way down to the nostril, all the way up to the nose. And you can easily see also in this picture here where the nasal bone ends. So it would be right here at the bump. So the bone would be like this. So we'd have the two halves right here. And then the lateral cartilage would begin. Just like that. And then at the tip, you would have the greater alar cartilage going like this. And then back inside. And we would have the nostrils or the wings right here. And if we look a little bit more closely at this here, we can see that the this section here, the tip of the ball for the nose, actually the cartilage wraps up and then inside of the nostril. And this part of the cartilage will form kind of half of the nostril with the wing forming the other half. So the nostril itself is not a circle like this, but it's instead something more like a comma or a shape like this instead. So now that we are a little bit more familiar with the anatomy of the nose, a really good exercise is to do what I just did now and try to draw those same shapes onto real noses on photos to be able to train your eye to spot those different shapes. And then when you're actually about to draw it, they'll pop back in your mind, and you'll be able to pay a little bit more attention and to ensure that your noses are a little bit more accurate. But moving on, what we're going to do is we're going to try to simplify these shapes into something that's a little bit more simple, because right now we kind of looked at the anatomy and it's complicated. There's a lot of stuff there, but the way to draw the nose initially can be simplified quite a bit. So if we look at this shape right here, so we have the glabella, which is this shape right here. Remember that we have the ball and the wings and the top portion of the block. And then we can kind of see like the change of light here. So it's going to give us kind of like a shape like this. So we can ignore the nostrils for now. We can ignore kind of like the roundness of the nose and simplify this to a simple box really. So something like this. And then just close the shape underneath. So this would be kind of like what we are trying to draw when drawing a nose from imagination. So if I redo this on the right here on the side and a little bit in a cleaner way. So we would have the top, so the bridge of the nose, and then it goes down, 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 down. And then as it goes down, we can start to flare it out, so to make it a little bit wider as it goes down. And then we'll have the sides of the box like this that will follow the rest of the nose, and will also get slightly bigger as it comes down. And then we can close this shape right here like this, like that. So we have a simple box. Now we can tweak this a little bit. So we can actually improve upon this a little bit more because this doesn't quite represent a nose too well, but you'll see that the differences that I make are actually really small. So let's say you have something like this. One thing that we are going to do is add a little bit of a curve in here. So we'll curve the nose at the bottom, so like this, so we can erase the line that was straight. So we'll curve this, and we are going to curve these, but the other side, so on the outside instead. So push them out. And then instead of a straight line down here, we'll have a curve again. So a curve to kind of match the curve of the tip of the nose right there. So like a parallel curve, same distance everywhere. All right, so it's still fairly simple. We didn't add that much to it, but this represents a nose a little bit more accurately. Then we can also kind of curve this right here, these lines here, to give it a little bit more of an organic look, as opposed to something that's still a little too stiff. All right, so still kind of like a box, but a little bit more complex. So again, you can definitely start with a box and then do this as a second step. So let's now place this on the face. So this is the tricky part always, where to place it, how to place it properly, and what does it look like in different perspectives and different angles. So the nose is going to be, as we remember, the tip of the nose, or not quite the tip of the nose, but the nostrils are going to land on the line right here. So the line starting from the bottom of the side oval, or also the bottom of the ear, where the ear connects to the head. And if we remember our different ratios for this, so we have 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. The first third here will be split in 3. This one will be split in half, and we have the hairline all the way up here. And the nose will be right there. And then, so we know that the nostrils are going to land somewhere around here, on this line right there. So what we can do right now is we're going to try to draw this box. But first, I want to make sure that we have the right dimensions for the nose. So of course, the noses can be many sizes. It can be big and small, but for the most average proportions, something that will make it easier for us to draw, we'll take a look at the front view for now to try to figure out how wide should it be based on all our existing guides. So all these lines here is just based on what we did previously. So we have the mouth right here, the top of the chin, the nose right here, the nose line, and we would have the bottom of the eye socket and the eyebrows right there, if we remember correctly. So we know that the nose is going to land right on this line right there. And in this case, this person is looking at us completely straight. So straight ahead, there's no tilt to the head. So the head is not tilt back, it's not tilt forward. And we can tell by how the ears align with the eyebrows. So right now it's on the same line. If you have your eyebrows right here, and you have your ears, the tip of your ears landing on the same line, then you can guess, and you can be pretty sure that this person is not tilting the head. If they are, on the other hand, so if they were tilting their head forward, the ears would appear higher. They might be up here or maybe even higher compared to the brow line. So the brow line might be down here, and this would indicate that the person is looking down. So maybe the nose would be down here, and you would have the mouth here. And this person will be looking kind of like at the ground instead. Or if we have it the other way around, where the ears are lower on the head, so maybe something like this, and the eyebrow line is higher, then it would indicate the opposite, that the person is looking up. But in this case, we have the straight line, so we know that this guy is centered and looking at us straight. So the way to draw the nose here, or the way to draw the box for the nose initially, is to split everything in quarters. So I'm going to split, and not everything, but split this line here in quarters. So I'm not going to worry about anything else. what we're going to worry about is this region right here, so the front of the face. And we're going to split that in quarters like I just said. So in halves, then in halves again. And this, so 1/4 plus 1/4 is going to give us a half. So this is going to be the width of the nose. And if we take another half, this is going to be the width of the eyes. So we'll have one eye right here, and then the same distance for the nose. So an eye distance between the two eyes, essentially, and then the other eye. So it's almost as if we have 3 eyes. But with this, we would know that the nose is at a proper size in comparison to the rest of the face. So this is kind of how you get the measurements for the nose. And then from there, as we remember, we would have kind of like the glabella going like this first. So kind of like this inverted keystone shape. And from there, we would have the start of the block, which we can actually make go all the way down for now. Get a little bit wider. And then that would be the bottom of the shape right there. And now, once we have this shape here, we remember that what we can do is actually to curve things a little bit. So we can add a little bit of a curve to the sides here, a bit of a curve like this, and a curve for the tip as well. Curve down, then curve up where the nostrils are, like that. So that would give us kind of a good starting point for the nose. And then from there, we'll be able to easily draw the rest of the shape, so the rest of the volumes, like the ball, the wings, and the bridge properly. But before we add more details, I'm going to draw the same thing here, but on this head facing sideways instead. So this would be kind of a more complicated subject. So again, we're going to do the same process. So we're going to figure out where in here does the nose begin. So we're going to take this distance here, split it in half, and then half again. So in this case, we're going to eyeball it a little bit because it's curving back. So right about there. And then that would be kind of like the width of the nose. So this right here. So we can draw a parallel to this line here, the symmetry line of the face, like that. So that would be kind of like the base of the square of the box. And then of course we remember we have the glabella, so we want to draw this shape right here before we draw the box of the nose. And then from the side view, of course, you know, the nose is not going to go straight down like this. This is just the base of the nose. The nose from the side will look something like this. So this is where it attaches on the surface of the face. And then we have the glabella that's like this. So this shape right here, this shape right there is right. It would be this one right here. And then you have kind of like the forehead going like this. So the glabella, as you can see, it goes inside the face. And then you would have the nose that begins like this. So of course, it wouldn't be flat on the surface. It would have some sort of volume. So you would have the nose right there. So there you go. So that would be kind of like the box that we built. So the nose, the top of the nose, and then the side of the box. So I'm going to do the same process here. Point out the nose block going all the way down to the ball. Then we can close it. And now we can just connect the dots. So we have already the base of the shape right there. So we just connect the dot with the tip. Connect. And we would have a nose. Now that we know how to simplify it and how to place it on the face, now comes the time to add a little bit more detail in here. So right now, this is obviously a little bit too simple, especially when we look at the real version that is like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to split the nose in 3 different parts, the parts that we've seen so far. So the ball, block, and the wings. One of the first things that I want to take a look at, I really want to suggest the presence of the nasal bone, which is completely non-existent right now in this case right here. So what's interesting with the nasal bone is that at the connection here, where the nasal bone meets the lateral cartilage, the nose is actually wider. So it starts pretty thin, pretty narrow right here, but then as it goes towards the meeting point with the lateral cartilage, it widens and then it becomes a little bit wider. And this is going to be the widest part of the bridge of the nose. So if the block ends kind of like right here, about like 2/3 down, and then from there the ball is going to start. What we want to do is right after the glabella, so right after the dip, right after the hole, not the hole, but like right after it kind of goes in and back out again. Right after that, we'll want to make that part a little bit wider and then maybe bring it in a little bit. So we kind of get the shape right like this. So if I draw this on this side right here, we'd have this section here that's pretty narrow, and then as soon as it connects, it widens like this, and then gets narrower and narrower as it goes down the nose to meet the ball of the nose. And in most cases, also, when that connection happens, when the nasal bone meets the lateral cartilage, you'll have also this little bump here. So if you look at it from the side, where is it? If you look at it from the side here, you would have the glabella right here, this line right there in red. And then you would have the nasal bone right here. And then when the nasal bone meets the lateral cartilage, the nose wouldn't actually keep going straight because that would make the nose a little bit too big. Instead, it shifts and it goes down like this. Maybe not as much, but to some degree. And then you would have kind of like the tip of the nose right here with the nostrils. So we have kind of like a break in the line of the nose right here. It's not a straight line. You have kind of like this bump where the two meet, where the cartilage and the bone meet. And this is right about here as it gets wider. So in perspective like this, probably going to be a little bit hard to represent it. So don't worry about it. But if you draw a nose from the side, make sure that it's not a straight line like this. Make sure that you incorporate that bump here, or make a conscious decision to make it go away if that's a stylistic choice of yours. But just know that there should be one in most cases. All right. So moving on, we're going to draw the ball of the nose. So we remember that the block ends in like a pointy shape, just like this one here, where the lateral cartilage meets the great alar cartilage. So we can do the same thing here, like this, instead of a straight line. This is going to give us a more accurate representation of the ball of the nose. So very, very simple. Since we have the little V already here, the little arrow, what we can do is we can start at the tip here. So the ball is going to start right the tip where the V begins. And what it's going to do is just going to curve down and meet kind of like the highest point here of the curve. So now we can erase kind of like this one right here, this plane right here. Instead, the new plane will be this. And then we can give this a little bit of thickness. So maybe make that curve a little bit rounder to make it look a little bit more like a ball. And then we know that this shape is actually going to wrap inside. So it's going to continue like this and then in towards the face to go meet the center here, the intersection that we remember, this intersection right here. So we know that this is going to be the base for the nostril. So the ball is going to essentially go meet up there, something like that. Then we can give that a little bit of thickness. And then we already have kind of like the first half of the nostril. So we can start to erase the other stuff here. And now to create the nostrils, well, what we're going to do is we're going to start here from the ball, from the side of the ball. And we're going to go straight down, following this curve here. So like this on the volume. And then we're going to use this as the base. And then we're going to extrude from there a box to give the nostril a little bit of the wing, a little bit of a thickness. But there we go. And then at the bottom here, we can just blend all of this together. And then in here, it's actually going to go back towards the nostril. So there we go. So now we have the box for the wings. And I'm going to add a little bit of shading to this. So right now it's just a box, but we can actually soften that to make that maybe a little bit more like a curve kind of volume now. All that would be left to do now is just soften things up. So it's still pretty boxy. So what we want to do is just soften everything up and kind of use the shapes that we already have to guide the shading a little bit. All right, there we go. So I am going to do the same process from the front here. As you can see here, knowing the construction of a nose like this, knowing all the different parts to be able to assemble them properly, it really makes a big difference. Not necessarily when you're just drawing a line art like this, but it really makes a big difference when you actually enter and start shading things with with a light source and with shadows and highlights. So knowing where the different parts, knowing what the different parts are and where they begin, where they end, knowing this right here, very, very important when it comes to time to shading your nose. So there's one last thing that I want to show here, and it is the eyebrows. So the eyebrows are going to be kind of part of the nose in a way because they are on a very similar plane. So if this is one plane right here, the forehead, if this is all one plane, the glabella here isn't. As we know, it goes back in here. So this plane right here is actually the very similar plane to the nose. So as you can see here, those lines are kind of parallel. So those two planes here would be the same. And so the eyebrows are also going to land on this thing here. So they're going to start right at the edges of this keystone, inverted keystone shape for the glabella. So they're going to start right here, and eyebrows are three different lines. So you have the initial line that goes up like this. Then you have the longer line that still goes up a little bit, but very slightly. So it's almost horizontal, but not quite. So it goes up a little bit, and then it peaks. And then from there, it goes down, it goes back down. As far as the thickness of things, so initially it will start in almost like a pointy shape. Then it'll get a little bit bigger, and it'll be at its thickest at the second intersection here. So it'll be thickest right here, and then it'll start to diminish in size, and then it'll get very, very subtle towards the end of the eyebrow here, and we might actually start to lose some of the hair like this. So it'll start to fade a lot more. So that would be kind of a simplistic way to draw the eyebrow. So we're going to draw it here again. So first intersection, a little bit thicker, and then it starts to go up just a little bit. So as you can see here, we have the horizontal line for the eyebrows, and then we can use that as a guide. So in this case, it's going to be a little bit higher than that. It's not going to be quite parallel to it. And then back down a little bit, not too much. And then we're going to set things up here so that we're ready to jump on the eyes in the following chapters. So the way this works here, as we've seen here, since the glabella here kind of goes inside of the shape of the face, so does the eye socket. So this entire section here is actually receding inside, receding towards the center of the head. It's not flat. So if we look at it from the side, a really good way to spot this is looking at the skull right here. So we can see that the eye is just straight. It's not a flat like this. You have the eyebrow here, and the eye socket actually goes in like this. The forehead is like this, and then the eye socket goes inside and then comes back out for the cheek. So this is going to be the cheek right here. It comes back out, and then it will just blend in like this. So you'll have your cheek right here. But this means that the eye socket is going to be inside the shape of the head. So we'll have the eyeball right there. And this is convenient because if it rains or if there's water pouring down, then it's not going to land in your eyeball. And so it's like a little umbrella for your eyes. But it's important to represent it here. And so the eyebrow is going to land right on the outside of that line, right on the surface of the head, but the eyes themselves are actually going to recede inside, so they're going to be further in. So we can illustrate that with a little bit of shading by making this entire area here darker. So now it's starting to look pretty good. So we're starting to see the face starting to come out, to come alive. And this is how you draw the nose. Next, we'll take a look at how to draw the mouth area. See you in a bit.